Hi, today is our day 5 on FeatureScript and we are going to work on an example of slot. We want to make a FeatureScript that can be used to make a slot. Let me suppress a slot. I have a part. I want to make a slot on this part body and I have a sketch. I just need a line. You can use a line, you can use a curve, maybe 3-point curve. I want to make a slot here that is rectangular slot. Therefore, just select your slot here. The path is your sketch. The part to cut, you might have multiple parts. You select your part. This is my part 1. You can see a slot is formed. Then we can use width, maybe it is 20, like that. You can also use straight line, but now you're using just one selection. Part to cut is this. This is 20. If you measure here, you're going to see 20. How can you do this in Onshape? This example will have two sections, basic section and advanced section. This one is a basic section. Then in my div 6, I'll have an advanced section. I have already started a feature studio named slot cutout. It imports the library and also imports the version, that is the version here. The first thing we need is annotation, the name that will be displayed, the name of my slot. Therefore, I will have annotation here. I can type. Instead of typing, let me use a new feature. You use a new feature. You can also type these ones if you know them, but don't hassle, just use shortcuts here. The first one here, this is a building block of our feature that has annotation for the feature type name. This one is slot. This is a name that will be displayed. Let me open here in a new browser. This is a name that will be displayed on our part studio slot. Then this is the internal name. Maybe I can use my slot, the internal name of the feature. Context is context. The context means the current work studio, part studio is our context, and anything defined is a map. In my previous videos, I was able to discuss what is a map. This name here. If I commit, if you go back here, you can see slot. That's the purpose of the annotation. The name that you want to be displayed inside the part studio, this name here. Then the name that is exported internally is the my slot. Right now, if you select the slot, it does nothing, okay, because that doesn't have commands. Let's go next. We'll do some. We will now to define a query. Remember, whenever you select this slot path is a query, part to cut is a query, and this width is a query. They are asking you select slot path, that is a query. Which part do you want to cut is a query. Your slot, the thickness of your slot will also be a query. Therefore, if I go here back to the Feature Studio, now we need a query. Under the precondition, we need two types of a query, that is a slot path and path to cut. Therefore, let's now query for the slot path. I need query. I need here select query parameter. The my query is a name that will be displayed by the slot feature script, by the slot feature, that is slot path. The name will be slot path. Filter, the entity that I should select, entity type will be an edge. It will be an edge. Therefore, I have to use an edge. Edge is like a sketch line. I can use an arc, still an edge. I don't have limits on the number of pixels. I want to use one for now. Once I select the edge for the entity type, what I have selected will be stored in a map. Remember, we defined definition is a map. It will be stored in a definition my maybe I can use slot definition slot path. Therefore, once I select the edge, it will be stored under slot path. Remember, map is a key and a value. The key is slot path, the value is definition.slot path. If I commit, if I go back here, let's see what happens. Slot, and then now nothing happens because this is just a query to store the edge. Then another one, we need annotation. We need another query that will enable you select the path. Therefore, go to query, now path to cut. It is asking, hey, which is the slot path? Then you select the edge. Hey, what is path to cut? My path to cut is entity type dot body. I'm using a body. You select a body. How many bodies can you select at a time? Just one. Then after selecting the body, where do you want to keep that body? Under the definition, that is definition dot my path to cut. I can use path to cut is query. Okay, next, lastly, now we need path, edge, body. Then we need to give value of our slot. Therefore, we need annotation of length, a parameter of length. Call it slot width. What is the slot width? Slot width is length. It is a length that is defined by the length bounds here. This length here, I can call it definition dot width, meaning whenever I call a definition dot width, it will give me the value of the slot, Okay, if you want to see the length bounds, you can press Ctrl and select it. These are the limits defined. You can see here loading. I'll open it later. Then if you commit, let's see what happens. To select slot, you see slot path. I don't know why it didn't work on the first time. Slot path, your path to cut, and slot width. Therefore, if let me delete this, let me show the sketch. If I select slot path, I want to show this path to cut, this one, width, nothing happens. Nothing happens because we don't have actions. These are just inputs to the feature. After that, what is the action? You want this slot feature to do what? Okay, let me illustrate something else. As you can see here, for the edge, I can't select two edges. You have to select one edge at a time. If I go back here, I can select two edges. Then if I added another part, let me add the sketch and put another part here. I have two parts. If I try to select both part bodies, doesn't accept because the maximum number of peaks is 1. If I change to 10, it means I can select only a maximum of 10 bodies. Let's commit and see what happens now. Edit. For the part to cut, now I can select 2. Part 1, part 2, because now I can select many. Because maximum number of peaks is 10. If you want to have unlimited number of peaks, just delete this line. Okay, but for now let's just use 10 just for illustration. I think we have defined our inputs. Let's go now to the action section. We need 3 things to happen here. After selecting the sketch, I need to extrude surface. I need to extrude a surface body. Then after getting a surface body, I want to thicken it. Thicken by the value of the slot width. Then I want to delete the surface body. After you thicken, I don't need it more. I don't need it. Delete it. Then there, you need not to, because you are cutting a slot, I need not to use a boolean to subtract. These are the actions. Extrude this edge to form a surface body. Thicken the surface body by the slot width. Delete it to clean up the part studio. Then boolean to get your slot. Therefore, the first thing you need, extrude. Operation extrude. Like that. Context in this part studio. This is a unique ID. You can modify if you want, but I'll prefer leave it default. Which entity do you want to extrude? It is my slot pad. I can now have a variable, call it my maybe slot pad to extrude. Then have this as my variable. It's not a must to have this variable here. A variable that will take definition.slot path here. The value that is here, it will store in the slot path. Sorry for that. And this here, control copy, control paste. This means the slot path to extrude is definition.slotPath. I can use this one directly here, or I can now use this variable. For me, I prefer using variables. Then the entities to extrude are slot path to extrude. The slot path to extrude is a variable that is gotten from this part here. Okay. Direction. Remember, whenever you extrude, we need directions. Okay. Then for the direction, we need to evaluate on a sketch plane. This means this slot path was sketched on a certain plane. Therefore, we have to evaluate the owner of the slot path. Where was it sketched on a certain plane? Therefore, evaluate owner sketch plane of what slot path to extrude, like that. Then we want to go normal to that surface, dot normal. I repeat here, this edge was sketched on a plane. If I go back here, let me go back, on a plane, certain plane. Remember, whenever you do a sketch, you usually select this sketch. Now it is looking for this sketch, that not that one, sorry, sketch 2 is looking for the edit this plane. It is this surface. It will extrude normal to this. It will always extrude normal to this. If you change the sketch to this face, it will now extrude normal to that. Let's do this practically. If you commit, before I do that, let's first of all do this commit. I want to use 1 inch. I will go back here. Let's first of all see what happens. You see now what is happening. It is extruding a surface body as we had discussed. Remember my slot, let me use this line instead. It is extruding 1 inch. This one is a 1 inch. Let me change units. Okay, units to, I want to use millimeters. If you use inch, let me use millimeters here for now. I can now change here. Let me use 10 times millimeter. If I commit and I go back here, this one, if you measure from this to this point here, that is 10. You can see 10 because I've used 10. This is the edge depth. Edge depth. Now let me now illustrate what we mean here. The edge bowed, this one edge bowed, this one is direction 1. Edge depth, direction 2. Instead of blade, I would prefer we go through all. Blade is where you define a value. Let's go through all in both direction. Okay, bounding type dot through all. Okay, if you commit, go back, just see what happens here. Press F to fit. You see what happens here. It goes in one direction. Okay, it goes, why does it go in one direction? This is because I'm using edge bound. I'm using edge and edge. Instead of edge and edge, I should have edge and a start. Therefore, I should have start bound, like that. If you commit, just commit, go back, you can see now I'm extruding on both direction through all. It extends to make sure that it cuts through. Let me now illustrate what I meant by the sketch plane. If I change this sketch plane to this face here, let's see what happens. I want to delete this, and we delete this one here. I want it to stay here. Okay, it is looking for the, let me now select, just show the sketch 2, this one here. You see, it goes normal. Even if I change again to this face, maybe, okay, it will never change, it go normal. That's the advantage of FeatureScript. Okay, next we need to thicken. Let's now thicken this surface. Okay, we go back to the FeatureScript. We have done the extrude. Let's now thicken. Use operation thicken. Just type operation thicken, a new ID, a special ID, entity to thicken. What do you want to thicken? I want to thicken above extrude. I want to thicken The entities I want to weaken is here. How do you call this? You use an ID. In Onshape, you use an ID. Therefore, entities, what is the entity? You want to get query. Now you query for something. You ask for something. Evaluate. Here is evaluating, but here you want to query. And say query something created by whatever is created by this ID. What is created by this ID? Our surface body. Okay, it is a body. Entity type is a body. If I use surface, there's nothing like surface because surface is also a body. Okay, understand here. I want to weaken with this weaken operation has unique ID, that is ID weaken 1. Entity I want to weaken is certain entity that was created by certain ID, and that quantity is a body. Therefore, entities query created by an ID. This ID, if this ID contradicts this ID, assuming you have another surface body, you'll have a certain unique ID. That is the ID you have to use here. And that entity type is a body. Entity type body. Remember, we need now to weaken by width on both direction. I want to go on both direction here. Weakness 1, weakness 2. Okay, therefore I can use definition.width directly here, or I can use a variable. Let me now use definition.width. I don't need to use a variable here. Control copy, control paste, again control paste. Let's see what happens. Commit, go back. You can see becomes weakened. It was a surface here, it becomes thick. But if you evaluate, it has thickened by 50, because I have said on my custom feature, thicken one side by width, the other side by width. I should have done divided by 2, divide that side by 2, also divide here by 2, so that I can get 25. If I go to throat, let me close one here, don't need it. You can see now from here to here we have 25. That's a 25. Okay, my last two operations is, as you can see, we have a surface body here still present. I don't need it. I don't need the surface body. Let me delete it first. Go here, go back. I need to delete that surface body. Okay, then operation what? Operation delete. Delete what? Delete bodies, not a face. Delete bodies. Special ID. Delete one. Delete bodies. Then we need now, if I go back, let me first for, if I let operation delete bodies, you can see we have so many here. We have this delete, delete, we have delete bodies and delete face. I want to say that surface body is not a face, is a body. Therefore, do not use face, use a body. Bodies here, okay, like that. What are the entities you want to delete? It is an entity that was created by certain ID. Which ID? ID 1. Therefore, I want to call this one here entities. It is let's see what happens when I want to use this entity. I want to query entities. I want to query for what? Uncertain body that was created by certain ID. Therefore, you query created by ID extrude one. What is it? It is a body. Entity you query. You query what? Something. What is that something? It was certain body that was created by extrude one. Yeah, it is a body. If you commit, go back here, you see it has disappeared. It will disappear. I've deleted the surface body. My last step is now to Boolean. If you select Boolean here, if you subtract tool this my target, that's the last operation we need. Okay, we need now to perform this, but I don't perform here. We have to perform that using a Boolean, using a FeatureScript. Therefore, last we need to operation Boolean context. Here in the context ID tools. In Boolean we have tools. What is a tool? Tool is what used to, if you want to combine. For example, if I go back here, let me just use this practically. If you want to subtract, tool is whatever is being subtracted from. This is my tool, this is the target. We need now to define this tool using this shortcut out. That's what we mean here. Tool is my Thickening one. What is a tool? My Thickening one. How do you get Thickening one? Query created by not extrude. Now it's not extrude. I'm going to use Thicken. You can copy this one here, Thicken, this ID. If you copy this, let me copy it here so that you don't miss spelling, like that, Thicken one. What is entity type? A body. Okay, that means something here, and this one is unterminated string. Okay, you have to terminate this string because Thickening one ID is a string, like that. Yeah, it is what? It is a body. Yeah, the one we Thicken here. This operation here, we are passing this ID here. It is a body. You can see a body. Then operation type, we need a target here. Okay, because we are not, it's not union. If I do union, for example, let me illustrate this. If I go back here, it becomes a one part. Okay, something is not okay. Then first of all, do like that. You see here, if union, we also need a target. Even if you are using a union, you go to Boolean. Even if you use union, you need tools. You need to select tools only to unite. But ours, we need to use subtraction. Okay, let me uncomment out. I don't want union, I want subtraction. Like that. Then for the targets again, definition dot path to cut. That's your target. Definition dot path to cut, and put a comma. That's your target. the part you selected initially. This is a part that was selected initially. I can store this part in a variable like this, but now it's not a must. If I go back to the slot is there. If I edit the slot, use another sketch, this sketch here, the same thing happens. Okay, if I edit this sketch and put a circle here, remember circle is also an edge. If I go to slot, I select even this. You see here, you can select two. I have to go back to my code. Here I want to use, I don't need this one. Let me just remove it. Maximum entity or maximum number of picks for an edge. And let me use limitless. If I edit slot, now I can select this. Now you can see I can select part to cut. I can now select this part. See what's happening. Okay, that is how to use a custom feature of slot. In my next video, we are going now to modify this code a little bit, make it more complex. Yeah, use some yeah. Let's meet in my next video, and thank you. Stay tuned for more. Yeah, bye.